Good morning.
Good morning.
So,
Do you
good morning.
ladies have do you ladies have your caffeine?
We do.
Excellent.
We do.
We do. Mine's in a can this morning.
That sounds nasty, dear.
Well, it is ice. It's called ice. It's sparkling ice. And I don't know if this one has caffeine in it or not. Some of them have caffeine in them. But for some reason, it's hot. I don't know. Whenever it rains and it's cold and it's freezing outside, our heater goes, "Oh, it's too cold. I better kick in." And then it kicks in so hot that I'm like, is it me or what? so,
I know that
so I
feeling.
was like, okay, time to cool it all down
Yeah.
and enjoy something sparkling and bubbly and fizzy and soda peppy,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have both. I have coffee and I have soda. So just in case, it's good to be prepared.
You are prepared, Deb. How about you? What are you drinking, Tabitha?
I have a Starbucks peppermint mocha.
Oh, my.
It's a special blend for the
Wow.
holiday season, and it's super yummy, and my husband doesn't like it.
So you get the whole pot?
So it's all for me. Well, he made his first pot earlier this morning, and I said, I'm putting a fresh pot on. And he just went to pour some, and I said, it's the peppermint mocha, the one you don't like. All for me. Sorry.
It sounds wonderful.
Oh, it does sound yummy.
It
sounds
is. It really
yummy.
is. It kind of puts me in the spirit.
Mhm.
So anyway, so
This
you
is-
ladies wanted me to tell you my fairy garden.
And you let me say hi to the
Mhm.
chat. Good morning, Viviani. She's the only one so far besides us that has
As folks
spoken.
get notified.
Some
yeah.
of us aren't morning people. and I wanted to say that this is Tabitha, and she's joining us. She belongs to a crone group that Katie and I frequent, and she has wonderful stories. So, okay, Tabitha, there you go.
You and I was beginning to just kind of share a piece of this story not long ago when Kate said, "Oh, I want to hear the whole thing." Come on, coffee talk. Okay. It's actually a story that's still continuing, so we don't know the ending yet. But
that's fine. Those are the best kind.
I know. I have to kind of take a step back and give you a little background on what was going on at the time. About 9 years ago, I got dramatically and suddenly sick. And it was quite some time before they were able to diagnose what was going on. And it was a brain disease, very rare. This brain disease was only identified in science in 2007, which is why it took about a year for them to pinpoint what was going on with me. And I had very severe memory loss issues, balance issues, trouble talking, trouble walking.
Wow.
It was a long rehabilitation after a few years of treatment. And I was at a point where I had an aide for almost 5 years because my memory loss was so bad that I would forget what I was doing as I was doing it. My attention span was bad. So there was a safety issue with me because I would forget that I had the oven on and go about my day in the rest of that, another area of the house. And so a dear friend of mine, Teresa, acted as my aide. And the doctor told me that one thing I needed to do for brain rehabilitation was to take a daily walk. 45 minutes a day was good brain health. And she
Wow.
actually said 3 days a week. So I thought, okay, I'll do it 5. Then it went to every day. And so Teresa would go on a walk with me. I had 2 dogs, so she'd manage the dog. And I had gone from a cane to a walker to a scooter and was back now on a walker. And we would take our walk about 3 miles a day. And one day we passed a house about a mile from mine. And there was a woman who I kind of named grandmother, and she was out in front with a 6-year-old little girl, ish, 6-ish, and they were bouncing a ball. And I thought, boy, that grandmother's really putting in a lot of effort to have a memory with her grandchild. But there was this kind of rolling feeling that hit you of sorrow when you passed by. And my girlfriend was also very empathic. And we kind of looked at each other and kind of went like this, like, whoa, um, what's going on behind the scenes that we don't see? And a few weeks later, when we passed by the garage door was up, and the grandmother was sitting there in front of a big chest, and the little girl was standing in front of her, and she was buttoning up this elaborate costume dress. So she had all sorts of costumes in this dress, and it was a summer day. It was 85 to 90 degrees,
Mm.
and in this wonderful dress that must have been smoldering. And again, we thought, gosh, that grandmother is really making an effort, but there's no children immediately around the area for this little girl to get to know and to play with. And so
Mhm.
she's trying to come up with um, activities that will keep this little girl occupied. And again, we felt this really uncomfortable sadness. And a few weeks passed, and we went by. And the front yard has this huge pine tree, enormous. And the yard itself is all bark dusted because the shade of the tree doesn't allow for things to grow. It's too shady. There's plantings all around the garden.
Mhm.
And at the base of this huge tree were about 4 or 5 vignettes that had been set up, and a fairy garden had emerged. And there was old piece of kind of driftwood that the little girl had painted the words fairy garden on, and she tacked it to the tree. And when you looked beneath this tree as the roots kind of grew out from the trunk, um, I saw that she had taken toys from board games and little glass animals that she might have gotten in a gumball machine. She had looked through whatever closets and what have you in her grandmother's house. What I learned later that it was her grandmother, that it is her grandmother. I just
Mhm.
kind of placed that moniker on the older woman. And there were all sorts of vignettes, different scenes. They clearly had gone to a craft store because the kinds of bluestones you put in a terrarium, there was a circle of them that made up a pond. And there were some little plastic pine, what are they, palm trees that were around the pond. And she'd taken some white stones to create paths to go from one area to another area. And everything was mismatched. But what you saw was an imagination that had just exploded. She had spent clearly a few hours doing this. And I looked at Teresa and I said, they hit on it. They hit on something that a child could do all by herself
Mhm.
and have just use her imagination as best she could. But this was clearly a fairy garden on a dime. And I said to Teresa, um, that garden needs some magic. And let's bring some magic into their life. I want to start secretly placing things in this fairy garden. Now, to me, this was a difficult thing for me to do. I said, this is going to become my rehabilitation because I had to use planning. I had to do organizational skills. I had to go out and shop, which was, you know, an experience because my memory was so bad. Um, and look for things that I can secretly put in this garden. And the other flip side of it is that when you have a brain injury and you're completely dependent on the people around you who love you to make decisions for you because you're having problems just thinking through something to come to a decision, you feel like your value is weakened. And to come back from such a severe health issue, you want to still make a difference. And this was my way of making that difference.
Wow.
Of just sharing something, enriching someone's life when I'm that impaired. And so it began. And every 7 to 10 days, it never really, I always made sure there was no rhyme or reason to when I left something. We would walk by and Teresa had the dogs and you had to be fast. I had to check my environment that no neighbors were out. And I wore a fanny pack for my little poop bags for the dogs. And so I always had something in my pocket of my fanny pack in case the coast was clear and nobody could see me place it. And I would have to place it very, very quickly. Boom. And the tree was quite close to the sidewalk. And then what would happen is I would walk by a day later or 2 days later, and I would know when the item was found because it would be placed in a different area of the garden. And every few weeks too, all of the vignettes were changed. So it was a very active kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so at the beginning, I placed stones that were painted that had words on them like blessing or faith or love, things like that. And then I started placing a chair and a picnic table and another gnome or another fairy, a watering can, a flower,
So cute.
a kettle that had fire underneath it, a copper pot to put on the stove so you could have a pot of tea, a gnome pushing a wheelbarrow. I was having fun just going to all of the garden centers and looking for all of these wonderful things. And every time I left something, I thought, I wonder what is going on in this house. But it wasn't long after I started doing it that sadness began to lift. And another sign went up on the tree that said, "Don't disturb the fairy garden." And I thought, oh, that's so funny because she doesn't realize that all the squirrels are running around the fairy garden. And that's what's going on. So I had to have a chuckle. And then a day or two passed, and she'd taken some paint and she'd put the word please in front of Don't disturb the fairy garden. Love, Al Addie. And I thought, oh, poor thing thought she was being too harsh. She needed to soften her message.
Mhm.
And another time I passed by, I thought, oh my gosh, I love this. They'd taken a piece of clothesline and connected it to the trunk and taken a nail and tied it to the ground and had a gnome going down a zip line. So there we were. And at the end of year one, because I've just completed year 5, at the end of year 1, a sign went up that said the fairy garden will be closed for the winter, but we'll be back in the spring. And I thought, oh boy, I know what's going on, because I'm imagining this child running into the house saying, look what I found, Grandma, look what I found. And will it happen again next year?
Yeah.
Will things begin to just come up, appear? And so I was back again, and about towards the end of that year, I passed by, and there was a sidewalk chalk message for me that said, "Thank you for the gifts." And I thought, now that's ingenious. They have no idea. And I knew, because I walk every day, so I know the walkers, I know everyone who's out tending their garden. You have the hi, hello kind of thing. There's a bit of a scuttlebutt going on about, have you heard about the fairy garden? Do you have any idea who could possibly be leaving things in? You're kidding. What fairy garden? Really?
Oh my
And there's kind of a buzz that's going on. Well, the next year, and in the interim, I met the woman of the house, and
The
the next
grandmother,
year
right?
was we exchanged names and chatted, and she always saw me passing with the dogs, and her kitchen window looks out on the sidewalk in the front of the house, so we would wave to each other as we passed by, or I'd walk by and she would be carefully bringing out a Tupperware container filled with water, because her granddaughter had dug a little hole so you could put real water in a Tupperware and really have a little lake, and put grass or moss around it. So Grandma's job was to just make sure that the water stayed full, kind of thing. And after the first year, when spring arrived, um, the grandmother and the little girl, who was now a year older, they were out there for 3 days planning and creating the second year of the fairy garden. It become the center of the home, and it become a big project.
Mm.
And during the year of the pandemic, at the end of the spring season, what I had learned is that when you go to the garden supply centers, everything is 50 to 70% off. So I had gobbled up all of these amazing things of gnomes and fairies and you name it, and I had a big stockpile. Then the pandemic hit, and we were all shut down. And I know that little girl was thinking, well, it's going to stop. Or Grandma was thinking, it's going to stop now because you have no access to going out and shopping. But it didn't stop.
Mm.
It kept going. And my son, he's 31 now, and he has autism, and his adult day program was closed because of the pandemic. So he had joined me on the walk, and my husband, and one day we passed the fairy garden. And uh, Marlene, the grandmother, was outside, and my son said, We love your fairy garden. And
Oh.
he didn't know I was doing this. Okay. And the grandmother just went, the fairy garden. And I thought, that's it. That's exactly what I want to see. Your
Mhm,
heart stop and you put your hand over your heart, that it means that much to you.
mhm.
And she said, I can't tell you what this fairy garden means. And we just continued our conversation, just saying it's really quite amazing. And these scenes are incredible. And we noticed that you changed them. And so here I am at year 5. Last year, there's a friend of mine, now a friend, who's a neighbor across the street in her late 80s. Um, and she was outside about a year ago and talking to Marlene, who was going to run inside to get a sweater because they were going to go on a walk. They do their walks together. And I said, Grace, I have a problem, because I had been caught. After 4
Uh-oh.
years, I, I had been caught. We had gotten a puppy, and the puppy was too young to walk down to the park. So we had gotten in my husband's truck, went down to the park, and then did our walk and loaded the dog back in so she could have the best time ever in the park. Well, on our way back in the truck, I said, stop by the fairy garden. Nobody's home. I just, it's been like 3 weeks because of the puppy. I haven't left anything. I jump out of the truck, and the little gnome I was trying to put in kept falling over. And so I'm trying desperately to get it to stand straight up
Mhm.
when the grandmother drives up. Oh my God. So she drops her jaw. I pop into the truck, turn my back on her. We drive away, and my husband's like, "You're so busted. You're so busted." What am I going to do? What am I going to do? I'm killing myself after all
Mm,
that effort of keeping a secret.
right.
And so I talked to Grace about it. I said, Grace, I need your help. Um, while Marlene's in getting her sweater, I've been leaving things at the fairy garden. She said, she knows it's you. And I said, I know she saw me, but I didn't acknowledge her. And I've never acknowledged it. And it's been a few months. And I said, it's really important. She actually has another grandchild that's younger, that has now, kind of taken part in the fairy garden. And I said, the children can't know who I am because the magic is that you don't know.
Right.
And she said she hasn't told them. And she said, well, on our walk, I'll let her know this has to be a secret. And I thought, okay. And it's been about over a year. And Marlene and I have had several conversations just recently, a few weeks ago. There was that was about a month and a half ago. There was another sign on the sidewalk, coming soon, a bakery, a library. I can't remember what else. And
Wow.
uh, and I was looking at this colored chalk sign, and Marlene came out, and I said, I'm just reading the news.
Oh my gosh.
She said, excuse me. She said, oh, the girls have big plans. Um, but take a look at this note. I said, I'm having trouble reading it. Um, and she said, well, she spelt gnome wrong.
Oh. Oh my gosh.
So So a few 2 Christmases ago, I decided I would leave a gift by the front door on Christmas Day. Grandmother isn't there, and I don't know if I sent you the poem that I wrote. I
Mhm.
don't know if it's possible for us to share that or not.
You
If
But
can
you
I
can
share your
think,
poem.
Hmm?
Share your poem if you want to.
It's do I press present?
Oh,
Oh,
I don't know. I can't share it on
Oh,
screen.
that's what well, what I did was I wrote a poem and I sent um, a kit of painted rocks, and I left this poem by the front door, and I put some graphics with it because I'm big on creating things in Canva of a image of the tree with the gnomes and the fairies, and it goes. During the winter, while your garden is closed, I thought you'd like to paint these stones. When spring arrives and flowers blossom free, place them about the grand old tree. They'll bring such pleasure to the fairies and gnomes who have made the tree their hearth and home. 'Tis a rare thing for a fairy or gnome to be seen. Their invisible realm is not here, it's between. When the heart believes the impossible can be true, they answer your thoughts and appear to you. It is written, when hands tend a garden with love and care, the fairies hear it like a prayer and cross the veil from here to there.
That's beautiful.
that's so sweet. The whole experience is such a magical experience, and the fact that it helped heal you as
Mhm.
you shared the magic with them and never even questioned, who they were or what they were about or why the granddaughter was there without the mom. None of
I
that.
found some pieces.
Oh, you did
Uh,
find some pieces. Good.
yeah, pieces. They don't live far. I didn't know if they were living with their grandmother, but
Mm,
they're a few miles away and they visit her in the summer. They'll stay for weeks and then they come on the weekend. And I'd never pieced it together. But
interesting.
one day, when I passed by, and it had been a few years, there was a wheelchair in left. There was a car parked in the driveway, and a wheelchair left by there. And
Hmm.
so I learned that Marlene's adult daughter, mother of two girls, one by the name of Addie, um, had had some kind of an accident, unexpected accident, and was permanently in a wheelchair.
Oh,
So the sorrow, that was the sorrow.
yes.
Um, what was wonderful
Yeah.
is the emotional change in the house. And what Marlene said to me is she said, I'm the fairy garden house. Everything about this house is magical. When
Oh.
they come over, this is magic. And they do it every year when they pack up for the winter
Hmm.
uh, and put everything because of the snow. I'm in
Hmm.
Oregon.
Hmm.
Then it becomes now, gosh, Addie, she's preteen. She looks, I'm not
Wow.
exactly sure of her age, but she looks at 12 or so. It's got
Yeah.
quite tall.
Sure.
Um, but it's something that the family does. And what's really kind of neat is it's known as the Fairy Garden House in our neighborhood, and I'm a mile away.
Yeah.
Um, Last summer, there's a young guy who was walking his dog with his lady friend or wife. Um, and I recognized him, but I'm terrible with names. And I was out watering, and he's walking by, and I waved, and I said, "Gosh, I know we've introduced ourselves. I'm sorry. Um, do you live next to the fairy garden?" And he said, "We do." like it's a big
Yes,
wonderful thing.
it is a
And
wonderful thing.
then the neighbors I've met a few houses down from the fairy garden too. It's they those neighbors give directions now based on the fairy garden. So you say, someone
Well,
will
it's a
stop and
neighborhood
say,
landmark.
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. So someone will stop and say, do you know how I get to the elementary school? It's like, well, you go down the road, you know where the fairy garden is.
Oh my gosh, Tabitha, it's so wonderful. There's so many parts of your story that are such gifts in the gift that you did, right? In the gift that you shared them, in the gift that they gave back to you, the fact that you had that healing happening in secret.
And
And then
they
it
had,
was, yeah, go
it
ahead.
was
Sorry.
completely reciprocal
Yes.
in what happened. And
Yeah.
I think the lesson too is how important it is to do simple acts of kindness,
Hmm.
because there's a ripple effect.
Right.
And
Well,
I know that this little girl, this grandmother, the younger girl that I don't even know her name,
yeah.
they're going to grow up and they will never forget the fairy garden. It's a very big part of their life.
Right.
But they're apt to do something similar as an adult.
Right.
They'll remember the feeling that they had every time they found something.
Well, and I kind of think too, on another level, that your guides and angels were in cahoots with their guides and angels, going, "Hey, let's nudge this along, see where this goes." Because sometimes inspiration comes from, we don't know where it comes from, right? We know
That's
that,
exactly it.
right? We have,
It's a definite two-sided twofer.
right. And you have this amazing heart that says, yes, I'm open to giving. Yes, I'm open to sharing in this amazing, soft, gentle way. And, for you to come up with this plan of, being the secret admirer of the fairy and contributor to, the hidden part, the part that's the mystery, the part that was the secret for so long. I mean, what would you say? You said it was like 3 years before you got caught. And
Yeah,
and
it was actually almost 4. It's quite,
yeah, that's so amazing. It's so
and it's
beautiful.
kind of it's taken on a path of its own.
When spirit does that. Spirit takes that little glimmer of sparkle, that nugget, and says, "Ooh, we know what to do with this."
Yeah.
And just poof, lets it run out like fairy dust. It just goes bam and
and
just
and
spreads it
and
all out. It's so cool.
and also the importance of doing kindness anonymously.
Hmm.
A girlfriend of mine, when I started this the first year, her little girl was 3, and they would come over once a week and we'd spend the day together. So we'd all go on a walk. And I explained to her daughter, who was 3, I said, now you can leave something in the fairy garden, but if anybody's outside,
Yeah,
we can't put it down.
that's right.
Nobody can see us. And her mom said, well, don't you want to knock on the door and let them know you're leaving something at the fair, that it's you? I said, no,
Yeah, yeah,
because the gift is the anonymity of it.
right.
The
Yeah.
gift is the magic.
I
The
just,
gift is the love of a stranger.
yeah.
That's how you tend your garden. That's
Hmm.
how we're supposed to tend to each other so they grow in love and light.
Hmm. Absolutely. So good.
So,
And I
so
think
to
it's
watch
so
that grow,
wonderful
it's
that
been amazing.
you facilitated in the healing of that family too.
Hmm.
That it
Oh,
wasn't just your
it's
own healing, it was
incredible.
the healing of the family that you were doing this for.
It
And the
united them.
neighborhood as well.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's pretty darn it's been pretty wonderful. And then part of me is now what am I going to do this Christmas? Because last Christmas, I left, I left a beautiful painted rock, and I did another poem. And I thought, oh, geez, how am I going to top myself? So you want to see my stash, and you can vote on what I should eat?
Oh, that would be wonderful. So,
Yeah.
and I wanted to just mention too for everybody in the chat. Normally we say hi, verbally. We're so glad that you guys are all here and sharing in this story, this amazing, real life story of generosity and wonder and magic and healing.
Yeah.
And it just encompassed everything about the holiday season, at least for me, that I find the most intense, the time where it really gets some focus, and how much healing happened between all of these strangers, and yet they were done in love, and it was done with the intention of sweetness and magic. And so I just want to thank everybody in the chat that we know we're seeing all the wonderful things that you guys are commenting on, and again, we
Yes.
are so glad that you are here. And thank you, Tabitha, for sharing such a marvelous fairy
Yes.
garden story, for all of us to have that inspiration of maybe, stepping out just a little bit to see what happens. But this story has just really touched my heart, and I'm so glad that you were here to share. So all the little waves, that's what that was.
Yeah, no, I knew
Yes,
what
we
you
were
were.
waving at everyone coming in. And just quickly, Karen is having a double espresso with foamy almond milk. Sounds divine.
I know,
So,
really.
that was our little.
Puts
That
my
was our little.
peppermint mocha to shame.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, you guys are doing it upright, man.
Well,
so what do you have,
so-
Tabitha? What are your options for putting up
Okay.
the garden?
Option number 1.
I like that.
Mm.
I like that a lot.
It's a little fairy house, so it goes. And I've left things like windows that glow in the dark,
Oh my God.
and that you can put on the tree, and pieces of a face that you can put on the tree, and
Wow.
doors to different. I mean, my goodness. Okay, so here's option number 2.
Okay.
Okay, that's
I'm trying to get my.
too. Now these are rocks, right?
These are painted rocks.
Now, did you paint them though?
I didn't. I Etsy'd them.
Wow.
Aren't they cool?
So they are hand painted. They're hand painted.
They're hand painted.
Yes, that's beautiful too.
So we have this one. I also have a table and chairs with a tea set.
Oh.
So I don't know if I'm trying to do the camera, which is not exactly.
You're doing fine. You're doing fine.
Okay, so
there we go.
People can vote in the chat.
So we'll vote.
Now I can leave both.
Well,
I can't decide.
We'll make the fairy house number 1 and the fairy number 2. And that looks like Tinkerbell to me.
Yeah, it does.
Exactly.
Tink. Tink, tink,
Yep.
tink, 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 tink.
So, yeah.
I saw a video of a squirrel stealing a fairy figurine out of someone's garden.
I'm telling you, yeah, those little rascals.
Those rascals, right?
Yes, they really are. So, and
they're very territorial too.
Yes. So when I was talking to the grandmother at one point, and we were reminiscing about the fairy garden and different scenes that the kids had done, and she was telling me that it was the center now of why we go to grandma's house. It's all about the fairy garden. And I said, oh, I remember when that sign went up about don't disturb the fairy garden. And she laughed. And I said, did it take them long to figure out it was the squirrels?
Oh, my goodness.
So funny.
That's so cute. So far we have 3-1.
3-1
for the house, for the fairy house.
Fairy house.
Yeah.
Okay.
So everybody,
3-2.
vote.
3-2.
They will
3-2.
they will both be, their destination is the fairy garden no matter what.
But it's just which
Right.
one is going to be the
Christmas, the Christmas one.
special one.
And it's wrapped, so it's hard to
Okay,
see.
it's tied now. Did you see that?
Yeah, it is.
Can you see this
3-3.
chair?
Oh, that's cute.
Oh,
It's
that's
like a leaf.
adorable.
It has a leaf for the background,
Mm-hmm.
and then a table that goes with it. So 2 chairs, and then this, I don't want to take it out of its wrapper, but this is a leaf tray, and it has a teapot,
Oh, that is so cute.
some cups and teapots. So
Tabitha, I keep
So
hearing,
it's
I
good
keep
for
hearing the
outside of
fairies
the
are happy
bakery.
too. I
beg your
keep
pardon?
hearing, I keep hearing that the fairies are happy with it too. So you're not just healing people and families on this side.
That kind of that validates the poem I left with my gift from last December, last Christmas. The note I left said, "We made a simple wish request for a humble home, a place to rest. To our delight, you heard our plea and created shelter under your wise old tree. For your generosity to those you see and to those unseen, we give this token, a gift to please, to conjure childhood memories."
Oh, beautiful.
And that's
So they
a
have been
validation
observing.
of what you
That
just
is
got.
so beautiful. Oh my gosh.
They have been observing this whole thing play out, and they are pleased with
Very pleased. Yes.
with all of it. They are.
You feel giddy. I mean, it's definitely something that you feel. Because when I leave the house and I put something in my fanny pack, I don't know if I'm going to be leaving it that day or not.
Right.
It's like just when you think the coast is clear, the person across the street is coming home from the grocery store, and you think can't leave it. Or someone is trimming their roses next door, can't leave it. So it's been a lot of fun.
Just that part of it, of knowing that, the anticipation of whether or not you're going to be able to leave something.
It's fun because my whole walk, it's at the end of the last leg of my walk.
Right.
So, I'm just kind of scoping around as I go, and I have to act very fast when I do it. And at the last minute, I can see, is the light on in the kitchen? Is anybody in the kitchen? That's the sneaky part. So.
Are you the only one contributing to the fairy garden, or are other people starting to?
I am, but I have to say, when I was talking to Marlene a few weeks ago, I'm taking evening walks now too. Puppy needs 2 walks a day. So she was telling me we were talking about the fairy garden because I stopped to take a look, and she was watering or doing something outside and caught my eye, and we started chatting, and I've forgotten what she said, Tabitha, people leave things. And I said, really? And she said, everything you see has been left by people. And I'm thinking, I'm a people. I got the power on the people, baby.
Oh my gosh, that is just the cutest.
I've been elevated from a 1-2 collective.
Wow. Oh, that's just so wonderful.
So it's fun. And they've got a stash of, oh my gosh, you can imagine, you know, a small fortune has been put into this fairy garden. So
That's so wonderful.
so that's what they think. And a friend of mine came to visit. I hadn't seen her in years, and she came into town, and her mom is 97, and I call her mother because she's like a second mother to me every Sunday, and she's blind, and there's, all of her friends are gone. So this call I make every Sunday is important. So I've been telling her from the very beginning all about the fairy garden. And so when her daughter, who's my age, came into town with her daughter, who's mid 30s, I hadn't seen her in like 15 years. Um, she came by to pick me up for lunch, and first thing she said is, "I want to drive by the fairy garden. Mom has told me all about the fairy garden." And so we drove by, and her daughter in the back seat stopped, stopped and looked, and her daughter says, "Is this something the community does?" Because her daughter's thinking of moving to Portland. And I said, "No, it's just something that I do." And her mom just laughed and laughed because it's just one of those things that I learned from my mother, that when you see a need, you just do something, and it's as simple as maybe somebody's having surgery, a neighbor's having surgery, and you take them a meal. But it's just something that I learned from my mother. You do something nice. Maybe they know you did it. Maybe they don't know that you did it. But I grew up watching my mom do kindnesses without anyone feeling like she was deliberately doing a kindness.
Mm-hmm.
There's there's a bit of an art to doing something for someone without making them feel like you're doing them a favor. Instead, having them feel like they're doing you a favor.
Right. There is that reciprocity element that that I think people sometimes have a hard time saying yes when someone reaches out and says, "I want to give this to you." That you're providing the gift, the person, the gifter, and the giftee, right? And being on the receiving end sometimes can feel humbling or embarrassing, and you know what? We're not our circumstances. We're beautiful human beings. And anytime that we can share something that can lift another person, or that can, provide some playfulness or joy, it's worth saying yes, and turning off those other feelings that say, no, 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 thank you. Say yes. Because in saying yes, you're allowing the giver the expression and energy that they may need in their lives, that energy of giving out the love, of sending it out. And I don't mean to make this sound simplistic, but we have to practice that. You have to practice giving love freely, right? No expectation, no strings attached, no, oh, now that I've given you something, you have to give me something. No, 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 no. This is just giving from the heart, giving the love out, letting it go and seeing where it will go, and trusting that it's going to touch the right person at the right time, that it's going to warm someone. It's going to, put light where maybe something was a little bit on the downtrodden side. But I think that giving and receiving both play into that energy of co-creative light that says yes, and that both receive enormous things from the act of just giving and receiving. It's I don't know if I explained that right or not. But
No, I think so. And we go about our day sometimes automatically.
Right.
And it's important to really engage, because we can change the situation. So it might go from an uncomfortable situation to laughter,
Mm-hmm.
just in everyday encounters, when we're out and about doing our errands or whatever.
Right.
I was at the grocery store a while back, and there was a mother who had two rambunctious boys. I'm going to say maybe 6 to 9 was the look. And she was shopping, and I was going down the aisle,
Mm-hmm.
and this younger guy did a ninja stance at me. He blocked me from going down the aisle,
Mm-hmm.
and just went, oh, you know. And
You
and
do
I
that
stopped
well.
I stopped in my tracks, and I said, "Do I have to pay a toll to pass you?
Oh.
What's the rule?" And he's trying to figure out. And I said, "Will I be able to pass if I give you a high five?" And he goes, "Yes."
Oh.
And I said,
Yeah.
"Okay, I'm
Yeah.
paying my toll. High five, high
Mm-hmm.
five." And the mom went from tense, my sons are being boys,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
with a stranger and not allowing this woman to pass by,
Right.
to engaging in the
Oh,
imagination.
yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, Juno. There's been so many comments that I would, I just totally agree with all the way through the
Yeah.
chat about making magic every day and setting out, the intention that says, what kind of magic am I going to co-create with the universe today that's going to surprise and delight someone?
Yeah.
And it's
And
small
I
things.
read something a day or two ago where someone had suffered a loss, and they said, don't ask or don't say if there's anything I can do, because the person that's going through it doesn't know what they need. They're in
Yeah,
shock.
right.
If you really want to help, then go do their
Just go
dishes,
do it.
bring them a casserole, do something. Don't say something, do something. And
Right.
that's what you are doing, Tabitha, is you are doing something.
Right. All right.
It's Juno is saying, I see in the chat, when I know I'm receiving a delivery, I always bake banana bread or something like that,
Yeah.
to give to the delivery person. That's it. That's the ticket.
Yeah, that is.
For me, on a hot day, when I
Yep.
see that the delivery people or the mail person, I have a refrigerator in my garage, so I always run in to try to grab them so I can get them a nice bottle of water.
Mm.
It's those little things.
Right. Yeah. I have a girlfriend who always stocks up on socks, brand new socks,
Mhm.
and bottled water. And she puts a pair of socks and a bottled water in bags in the back seat of her car, so that every time she passes by someone that is asking for a donation or is homeless or is at that
Great idea.
intersection, she reaches in the back and pulls out the water and the bag. They say the number one thing that homeless want is socks and water, because it's hard for them to find the water just to brush their teeth. Public water just doesn't exist anymore. So a bottled water and a pair of socks, and she just hands it to him. She said, it's priceless to see how they light up, because someone has actually, made the effort to pay attention to what it is they really need. Of
I
course, they
would
need to
light
buy
up if somebody gave me water and socks. I would light up.
yeah, yeah. I was just going to share another thing too. When I was on the phone with customer service the other day, it started out with, how can I help you while I have this problem? So of course, customer service people hear the problem all the time, and they probably hear the anger and frustration of the person that they're talking to all the time, right? And there was this one gentleman who actually walked me through spent quite a bit of time explaining things, because as we get older, sometimes it just doesn't, just doesn't sink in for whatever reason it is. And so at the end of the conversation, he had solved my issue. And he said, "Is there anything else I can do for you?" And I said, "You know what? I hope the rest of your day, that every caller that you get makes you smile." And he said, "Oh my gosh, that is so kind. Thank you." And yet it was just a simple hope. It was a simple wish. It was as simple, "I acknowledge you and thank you for your help, and good luck on your day. I know I'll never meet you." I don't know who you are, but everybody needs that little slice of something that says, thank you, or hey, or you matter. So
And
So
then
often
you have
raisers,
that
they
ripple
probably.
effect.
So yes, the ripple effect. I was
Yeah.
thinking about that with your fairy garden story too, Tabitha. That the ripple effect was it started as something to help you, and it helped them, and then it spread to the neighborhood, and now the neighborhood talks about it to other people. So it's just like you dropped a pebble, and the ripples are still going.
Which is so beautiful. I would love it if people would, in the comment section under the video, post ideas of inexpensive ways of helping the community sparkle again, or feel like they're loved. I don't know if we all need to start a fairy garden or not. I don't know that there are certain circumstances where I don't think it'll work. Simply because management, or because there are other elements in the area that would probably just take the stuff home. But in the comment section under the video, let us know ideas that you might have of ways to make the season brighter, gift each other, spread a little sparkle in this holiday season, because it was so beautiful. Such a wonderful story
And
to
I
have.
wanted to
Thanks.
quickly get Tabitha, show your rocks again, because we're tied at 3 and 3, aren't
We
we?
are
I think we're
3-3.
Okay.
3 and 3. So we need to break the tie.
They
I
will
agree.
both go there, but which one
But-
should I use for Christmas Day?
So
Very nice.
and so there's a fairy house and a fairy that resembles Tinkerbell.
Right.
The house, Brock, or the Tinkle. Yep.
Yeah, just to acknowledge them and make eye contact sometimes can be a really important thing.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion, Karen.
Anyone's day, but especially someone who feels like they don't have anything. They appreciate being seen and spoken to. Yes.
Yeah.
Because everybody does.
Everybody does.
It shows that we still recognize their humanity.
But I think it's little things like when you pass someone, say good morning, hello,
Yeah.
because you throw that positive energy out there, and it can really lift somebody up.
Yep. Absolutely. And it is our job to connect. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
No one's meant to do this
That is
alone.
why.
It's
To
the
connect to
simple
each
things
other and go ahead.
when you're in line at the supermarket and somebody has one or two items and you have a whole bunch of items, say, go ahead in front of me. I'm not in a hurry.
I know. I have started so many conversations in the line at the grocery store. Sometimes I'll look over and I'll look at what people are buying, and I turn to the person. I'll say, "What time is the party tonight?" And I lost the directions to your house. So could you tell me who's this woman? And then the wife says, "Honey, do you want to tell me something?" No, I mean, kidding. But any kind of joy, any kind of smile, any kind of hello, is
Just
so
connecting.
important. Yeah, it's just connecting. So I
And
saw
this
two
happens-
for the house, right? Do we have 2 more votes for the house?
I saw one. Was there another one? But that breaks the tie.
It does break the tie. Anybody else want to vote? Tinkerbell or Fairy House?
Yes. Now's your
We'll do a
chance if you
quick
want to
countdown.
vote.
Oh,
Karen says bad neighbors moved in and changed the energy there. I remember you saying that. So I
sign on
put
the
a sign on their mailbox that
Good for you, Karen.
just be nice.
It's nice.
It's
Nice. I just don't
It's
understand it
not.
sometimes. Yeah, I don't
It's not
understand.
that hard. It's not
Okay,
that hard.
so we have 2 fairy houses.
Okay.
Well,
Yes, we
this is the season with the season of giving, and there's an opportunity for the neighbor who's having the difficult neighbor.
Yeah.
Get them a tin of cookies or, whatever you're baking, share it.
Kill them with kindness.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
That's right.
So
I love that. Gave them pillows. Oh, I just can't even
well,
imagine.
that's a great idea, pillows.
Mhm.
That's
Just
a good
pillow,
one.
yes.
Mhm.
That is a great idea.
Yeah.
Aggressive actions are communication, but we don't have to and I understand the whole neighbor thing because I'm about to leave that here.
And we're all
I'm doing
sending good vibes that the new place doesn't have that. Doesn't have that energy. Yeah.
She did voodoo on their house.
Yeah, we
But
have the same situation where neighbors are, are just nasty. So we
Yes.
put up a bubble around the house and
That's what I
and
do.
keep
I
the
put a
communication
bubble.
away from them. Yeah.
I can't make them stay far enough away from me. But where I'm moving is a much more peaceful place
Oh, nice.
and
That's
safer, and so it'll be much better.
Yeah. This has been wonderful to have you, Tabitha. Thank you so much for
Yes.
coming.
Well,
And
thanks for the invite. It was fun.
it is fun, isn't it nice? It's like
It's
like sitting around the coffee table.
we got
Sorry,
what was it? 5-3 for the fairy house.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. And for those who voted
was-
for Tink, just know that Tink will be delivered at another time too. So, right?
Yes.
Yes.
She'll be
Yes.
arriving around New Year's.
Ooh, there you go. New Year's plans.
So not far behind. So that makes sense. So the house will be there, and there will be a place for her to go.
Mm-hmm.
Magic for another year for her.
That's awesome. So I just wanted to just say something a little bit drippy, and I just really appreciate everybody in the chat. You guys are such a gift to us. Your energy that you give us, your sweetness, your ideas, your humor, the fact that you're here with us and just, come by and say hey and, raise a coffee cup to say hello, good morning. It means the world to me and I'm sure to others that are in the chat. And it's not as gabby as I am. But it is fun. It is fun.
The energy right now is a little unsettled, and I think is getting ready to get better. It's what I keep feeling, is that it's about to settle.
Right.
But right now it's a little up in the air.
And one of the things that hit me this last week too was in the rubble, when the earth is pushing up the rubble, when she's pushing it out and she's getting rid of the old and she's flying the dust away and she's moving it out and she's burning it and she's flooding it, there is a new soil underneath. There's a new soil being birthed underneath. So plant your garden now with things that you want to see become real when that new soil has had water and sun. Right now, there's just the dirt and the dust and the flame and the water. And the chaos is here. But just know that underneath it, something really sweet is fermenting. Something really sweet is becoming new again. So if you have hopes and dreams, if you have a new way of hoping, here's the best way to do this. If you find yourself saying, wouldn't it be great if, or, oh, wow, I would really love it, fill in the blank. Put those seeds of whatever landed in that blank into that new soil, and let the universe help bring those to a sprout. Let the universe help bring those into reality. Does that make sense?
And accept it when it comes.
Yes.
Accept it when it comes.
And say yes. Just say yes.
Just say yes.
Just say yes.
Well, we're a little over an hour here, and I want to be mindful of everyone's time. So I want to thank everyone for coming. Especially want to thank Tabitha for joining us and sharing her inspirational story. And as always, thank you, Kate.
Oh, thank you, Deb.
We love you. And until next time, beautiful beings.
Cheers.